Hi, everyone. Welcome to another fascinating storytelling edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, I'm delighted to be joined by author, performer, Ashley Hargrove. Ashley, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime, anytime. I will mention a couple of titles here. Paka Paka being a voiceover role that you've done, series, Caroline of Mine, as well as I believe, to be released, Marriage Bites. I believe that's on the way. And then you've also written in the world of prose and crafted there in the Hands of the Vampire, just a bit of Christmas Miracle.
Yep. And even years ago, I did one called Beneath the Waters Calm, and I think I wrote that when I was 20, 21, something like that.
Very nice. Very nice. You have a long history of creating.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
I've been into creative stuff probably since I was about 7 or 8 years old, so it's been quite a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that initial spark? What got you into the world of writing and creating?
Uh, we had moved to, I was a Navy child growing up, and when we had moved to Florida, we were near the Nickelodeon studios at that time. We were not
Hmm.
far from there, where, in the 90s, it was big for kids' TV shows to be filmed there. And I just, at the time, I was a big reader on top of it. And part of it, I think, was because this will sound a little odd, but I was in speech therapy for years. And that actually kind of helped really spark getting into a massive reading and wanting to write. And then when I found out about
Hmm.
Nickelodeon, I was watching all kinds of stuff and I just became fascinated how they actually made that stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe I could be in one of these.
Nice, nice. Love that. And what's it been like to work as an author, as a performer across these creative spaces?
It's really fun for me. For a while, years ago, when I was first starting to do like background work and just, learning how to put novels and scripts together, I had waited tables while going through college. I was originally business management, and then I went into cybersecurity, which is an entirely different field. Um, but it's so different because they all, even though they all share the creative arts part together, they each have their own little, I guess, niche to them in a way.
Hmm.
Like an example, when I do voiceover work, we sometimes get to see the image of what we're voicing, but there are times where we may never see anything. You may get a script at the very last second that's literally like, okay, here's your 15 seconds, read this and go with that. And you're just like, oh, okay. Um, and so like the radio commercials are easy because you're just yourself. But when I got to do Paka Paka, the alpaca cartoon, I think we're at 2.3 million views now. So we have some stuff coming up with that. I found out. Um, when I auditioned for them, they gave us just a very tiny little sketch image to start with because the animation company was still working. And I was like, okay, powder puff purple hair. How do I bring this to life? And
Hmm.
when we did our first meetings with the director, he's like, okay, I've got the animation team on the meetings. So if you change something without warning us, they're like, they may follow what you do. So when we actually improv a line, they're like, okay, can you match the facial expression of this clip I'm going to send you in black and white? And I was like, I can try. So you actually get to see the movements of the character's mouth, and you're just like this, and you're on camera to them, like trying to get your face to match the alpaca.
Oh, how funny.
Versus when I'm on camera with regular film work. I do everything from I love doing like Christmas stuff. I've auditioned for Hallmark more than enough times. Would love to get with them, but I do a lot of comedy work, as you saw with like the Marriage Bites one. And with
Hmm.
those, at least you have the people in front of you. So it's so much easier to work with them right then. A lot of the voiceovers, you're generally recording without them. Sometimes you may have someone to work with, but most of the time, nope. On camera, at least they're right there with me. So I was like, yes, I can see your face. I can
Hmm.
work off
Hmm.
of this. And then with writing wise, whether it's scripts or books, for those, I picture basically in my head, I try to think of like different actors to help pull it together. So when the story is coming out, it's like, okay, even though I know those actors would never get to do them, like example, if you just picked like a Julia Roberts or something, like, yeah, you try to picture the actor as you're writing that, like, okay, they're walking along the street And so all that comes together that way. So that for me, it's all the different mixes that it pulls. It could be
Mhm.
hard to a degree, but I think it's kind of cool, and everyone should just dabble a little bit in all of it.
Yeah, yeah, I love the range of creating. And if I can tuck a question here, is there a particular element that attracts you to a part, either live action or voiceover?
Voiceover for me, I do a mix of everything, but I love cartoons and the video games the most because those characters we get to be so outrageous sometimes, or we even get to be like little creatures or even little kids again. And so that for me gives me that extra outlet because a lot of us, the older we get, unfortunately, like our age range on camera is like, okay, you're now this range and you can't be all the fake stuff.
Hmm.
So that's
Hmm.
one thing with the voiceover is I really love looking for the video games and cartoons because I get to just go all out, do crazy stuff with them. Because like Paka Paka, I'm an alpaca that at times been flipped up into the air. I sprouted a second head like Army of Darkness, um, and I have gadgets on me, so I'm like a Data. Now, when it comes to on-screen film roles, for me originally I was always playing it safe, like I was always the college student or somebody's assistant or the sister or the best friend. But recently I began to try a little bit more of villainous roles because I think it gives me a little bit more fun, but I like them to have a comedic edge to them. I don't want to do like dark, but the comedic villains you ever watch, I think it was like maybe Shaun of the Dead or something, but there were some good comedies that have been over the years where those villains are so over the top. Like Austin Powers ones, for example. You just those are the ones you want to do. They're fun.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Curious about, as you're thinking about embodying a character, is there any change in the creative process between live action and animation as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. At least when it's live action, we basically at that point you become just whatever character and you're working off the other person that's with you. And a lot of times you're still kind of yourself, but it's easier to slip into the characters. If I'm doing voiceover work, it depends what the project is. There was a video game where I had to have an accent. So a lot
Hmm.
of the European accents I would do. You might laugh, but this is a very good tip for people. I would find YouTube tutorials of people with the actual accent, and I would listen to how they're doing it, and they would show how they turn theirs into an American accent. So I try to replicate it. And those get a little harder as well because you may have extra locations to pronounce that you can't. There was a radio station out of, I think it's Quebec or Ontario, where I do a lot of voice work for them. And a lot of times the places all have French names. So I'm sitting there like, how do you say this?
Curious as well about the writing side as you're crafting creatively. Any creative moves, inspiration points for you as a writer?
There's a couple. One of the biggest things I try to tell people over the years is just always watch the world around you. Sometimes take that moment to just pause and just listen, or even find just an object and just take a minute to focus on it. I like to go like on nature hikes. I sometimes go caving to waterfalls. I grew up on the water, and with those, you take the time if you go on a hike by yourself to actually just sit and listen to everything around you, and it gives you a chance to get everything out. And the good part about those as well, they help you see other locations that you're normally not stuck at home with. And it's kind of the same also with the reading and stuff. I read everything. I read everything from kid books to adult books, whether it's a cute little Bernstein Bear book or even a Goosebump book or like Handmaid's Tale. And then there was even some historical stuff that I read, because all that together you get different ideas and you see
Mhm.
how they all pull everything together because every author has a different way of writing. I've seen some go very simplistic, and I've seen some get so detailed where you can actually picture everything inside your head. You see the images, you see if they're off in a castle somewhere, you can actually picture that. And the other part too that I tell people is even the people you're around every day, what about them stands out? What jumps? An example is when I did the comedy script for Marriage Bites. The lead character, Martin, that you see in the trailer, is actually based off a friend of mine. I had seen him dressed as a vampire one day, and he's very comedic. So when I was watching Joe Camara and I looked at the picture, and I'd already worked with him once, I was like, I can make a vampire story off of you. And he's like, huh? I was like, yes. So that's something I tell people. Just watch your friends and everyone around you, because you never know when there's going to be something, just fun with them that you can come up with. Now, if it's scary wise, nightmares over the years from watching too many horror stories, whether it was
Right, right.
Twilight Zone, Tales from the Dark Side, or all the popular 1980s horror films. But the kids stuff itself, I think it's just, I've always had a very vivid imagination since I was a kid.
I am also a fan of reading widely. I'm a fan of fandom. I'm very curious about nostalgia and fandom and the things that make
Oh,
people creative.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep, you had discovered I run a nostalgic video blog. My
Yes.
grandfather years ago, he used to be an antique dealer. So when I was a kid and we were visiting him in upstate New York, that was the first time I got to see all these antique toys. And I just became fascinated about how they worked because they were so different, from everything with batteries or plugging them in. And when I got to adulthood, it just kind of grew. And I think probably the last 10 years, it just really kind of shot through the roof because I have I would say probably over 100 board games that go all the way back from the 1920s up to today. And even the old toys, the figurines, I track them down. And I also get to learn their history, and especially if they're ones I've never played with before. And that part, sorry, mom, I took some 1950 toys out of their packages. And I know some people had heart attacks, but I was like, I'm not selling them. Like, I might as well play with them and show people what this is like. And
Hmm.
the history behind each toy that you get across, and I even showcase like old books and even old decor. The history behind them it's pretty crazy, and sometimes it's really pretty. And then there's someone just like, how did they come up with this idea? One of the craziest board games I came across was called Poison Ivy Camp from the 1960s. Your goal was to reach your hand into a mound of fake poison ivy to try to get out these flags. And yeah, these were games in the 60s. And I was just like, oh, okay.
Interesting, interesting. One never knows what might be in there.
Oh, and then especially if you find them, the ones just over the years made in the factories up north in the U.S. Years ago, like Ideal Game Company, and then also the ones behind like the Slinky, the Barbie doll, or toys from overseas. I even get stuff from over there that friends will find for me because they know I love, collecting them and showcasing them and doing the little vlogs. And that's the other part. I love showing that part of history. History was another big thing growing up, and it helps with your writing and acting as well. Because when you're writing, if you ever want to write something in the past, you've got to have at least a little bit of ideas of what, happened. Because I wasn't alive 100 years ago. If I was, then you know what magic I had.
Yeah, and I imagine that engaging with fandom that way also fuels your creative process.
I've had some people ask about, the different toys, reach out and try to figure out where I found them, or they'll be like, they played with them as a kid themselves. And it was kind of neat getting to show them again, because the other fun part is if you ever go on YouTube, they showcase the old toy commercials all the way back to I think it was like late 1950s was some of the earliest ones they were showing when they were first
Mhm.
starting to show. And crazy part is I watched some of the ones from the 90s and go like, I played with that toy as a kid. That commercial was so cool. And then you get the toy now as an adult and you're like, yeah, I'm like, I don't know what brought me to that toy. The
The
the Jumpsy Daisy
reality.
doll. Yep.
Hmm.
13 Dead End Drive game. Their commercial in the 90s, they use these giant puppets that made it funny. So when you get the game, you don't have the giant puppets. And then like the Jumpsy Daisy doll, they show her bouncing on her trampoline, perfect. And when I got the doll, I dropped her on the trampoline, and she fell over. It's like yeah, there was no bounce there. Well, She bounced off the trampoline once.
Some assembly required. Some assembly required. Still better than a bag of glass, right?
Oh yeah. Or if you ever see those old chemistry sets from the 1960s that got banned
Oh
because of the
yes.
chemical components. And the
Hmm.
cool part is my husband is also inspiration, though he has nothing to do with the film industry. He's a chemical physicist. He's very supportive of it, but you'll never find him on a camera ever. Something that I kind of learned from him that was unique. He actually showed me how to change like the color of fire because part of his work he had to learn how to do that. So I get to learn a little bit from him as well of little crazy things.
Very cool. Very cool. A creative partnership.
He was the one that actually built our pink coffin for Marriage Bites. He actually was able to build that for
Ah,
us.
very nice. Yeah, yeah. Uh, Curious about what you're exploring creatively next. Is there anything that you'd like to tackle?
Oh, there's several. There's surprises with Paka Paka coming up. I can't tell it yet. The animation company might not be happy if I did. So, but there is
Hmm.
surprises. Marriage Bites right now is going to be coming to stream very shortly. We are getting some of the critics have started reviewing it for us, so that's going to be neat because we had one of the premieres already. We're going to try to do a Birmingham showing. I've definitely revamping the one vampire book that's coming out. I've got a sweet holiday comedy book coming as well. So that'll be a little fun one, Holiday Chaos. So it's different for me, but I love some of those holiday stuff. I can't help it. So we have that coming. And then I'm definitely going to be returning to more filming this year. I have a lot more indie games I get to be on. The other part is if you want to go old school, cheesy lifetime drama, Caroline of Mine is available. That's on
Hmm.
Amazon, Zumo, Tubi, and a couple other places, and we have the DVDs for those. I will actually be starting some of the convention tours coming up. That includes whether it's movies, the cartoons, and the books, of course. There's also another book late next year, The Legacy of Amelia Banks. It's a sci-fi action comedy. So that was a fun one that I actually started about 10 years ago and took a break to focus on other stuff. And I came back to it finally because I had to really push into sci-fi elements on it. And then there's, of course, a fun little kid book coming up because I love the cute stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Again, I appreciate the range of what you're creating. I'm always interested in people that are creating across spaces.
Well, it's good, I think, because part of it, one of them is if the industry ever slows down, and it does, whether it's in writing or film, you're able to kind of bounce to the other areas. And each industry itself, they all tie together in different ways, and it gives you more chances to keep being creative. And one of the other advice I give to people is never stop networking, whether you go to
Mhm.
conventions or writers' workshops or film workshops. This is how I met a lot of my mentors over the last few years. They actually, whether it's a voice mentor, script mentor, someone that's done novels, it's important because it helps you keep your creativity as well. Whenever the writer's block pops up, we all get those.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. If I'm a listener and I want to find out more, where are some spots where I might find you?
You could definitely find me on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube under Ashley Hargrove. I run all my nostalgic blogs there. I also do comedic walkthroughs of indie game developers for them, especially the horror ones. They're fun for them. You can find me at my website, ashleyhargrove.com. It's also being updated again. Then we also have marriagebitesthemovie.com website as well. I'm on Instagram, so you definitely can find me there. And even basic Google searches, I'll pop up, and then I'm starting to hit up some different conventions. So that'll be a fun one. Just always tell people never stop learning. You'll make mistakes
Uh-huh.
along the way. It happens, but just as long as you learn from what you did wrong or had a boo boo, learn from it and you keep going. Nobody's perfect.
That's right. That's right. We persist. We continue and we grow. Absolutely. Ashley, delighted to talk with you, and certainly glad to have you back anytime as you're working on projects across spaces, anything in the world of writing, film, animation, you name it. I'm glad to hear about it and talk with you about it.
Oh, and I thank you a lot for having me as well. Really enjoyed this.